that we're really seeing for our manufacturing clients and their peers right now is recruitment and labor gaps. So marketing is really just a small piece of this very large puzzle. But what it can do is help to kind of change some of the perceptions of the manufacturing field, especially for the next generation. And it can also kind of help move candidates further down the funnel in the same traditional marketing model that you would use for prospects or clients. So joining me today is Andrea Yank. She is Topfloor's PPC team lead. Andrea will be addressing specific tactics for leveraging social media ads for recruitment. And I will just be here alongside to learn from Andrea and ask questions. You are welcome to use the chat and ask any questions along the way. We will have a question and answer at the end, so we will get to them at that time. But with that said, I will turn things over to Andrea.
All right. Thanks for that intro. We have been having more and more requests recently for our current clients to leverage our social media ads for recruiting. So we can already tell that this is a hot topic. So I think it's more than relevant. All right.
Very timely.
Say that again?
I said it's very timely.
Yeah, it's very timely. Okay, so a few stats, because we love our stats. So the manufacturing industry is poised to create 2.4 million unfilled positions now through 2028. That's new positions. 45% of manufacturing executives surveyed in 2022 reported turning down business opportunities due to lack of workers. And I have to say that when in our in-person roundtable last week, one of our presenters actually did mention that they were turning down business. And that's just unfortunate. In Wisconsin, 55% of manufacturers surveyed rated finding and attracting qualified employees of high importance. And that was on a scale of like 20 to 30 different topics. They rated this one in the top 5. So clearly we need this.
Yes, absolutely.
Just touching on what Anne said about manufacturing field perceptions too, mostly for the next gen recruits, right? Common misperceptions is it's boring, right? They don't have visibility to how exciting and how different each career within the manufacturing industry could be. Lack of creativity, again, same thing. They just don't have the visibility to what could be creative or expanded on in their roles within the manufacturing industry. Harmful to the environment or worker safety. I think that's a pretty old misconception, is like that, all manufacturing is harmful to the environment. Obviously, we know that that's not true. And worker safety. There's plenty of initiatives that make manufacturing jobs safe. And then finally, this would go for new recruits, but as well as those more skilled positions. Fear that automation and technology will replace jobs. I think that, especially with like AI growing, it's just people are looking to the future and they're nervous that getting into a job that could be replaced by automation and technology really isn't a smart move. So what are just some of the things that you can address within your advertising to really turn that around and make people think twice about, coming into the field? So why marketing? So marketing, we can't train your skilled labor, but what it can do is turn that perception around about your employer brand. So think about how you're rated on Glassdoor reviews. You're not going to address each and every employee complaint directly, but maybe there was a perception, 5-10 years ago that you have turned around. Talk about that. What programs did you put in place? How did you turn that around? Like all that really good initiatives. And then help interested candidates find you. You can't expect them all to find your site or that job posting on your careers page. and then attract candidates to you versus someone else. So if you're not using the space to advertise for your positions, your competitors might be. And if they don't know that you even have that position open, there's no competition.
Right.
All right, so what we're going to go through today as the key takeaways, we're going to talk about the platforms. So what social media platform to use, features of each, just to give you a sneak peek. What approach to use, so how to use the social media to connect with their prospective employees, so messaging, things like that, and how to optimize. So tips for optimizing not only your social media company pages, but your site, because you want that face of your company to be representative of how you really want it to be, right? And then as a bonus takeaway, this will be emailed later, we have an employer branding worksheet. If you're already in HR and just looking to dabble into marketing social ads, and that's why you're here, you may already have an employer branding worksheet or plan that you can use for this purpose. But if you aren't, and you're a marketer maybe helping HR, or you're a really small company and you don't have necessarily recruiters or HR, then you can use this as a kind of a jumping off point. So like it'll help with your messaging, like what do we want people to know, what are our values, what's our culture like. So that'll be important. All right, so Facebook or LinkedIn, how to decide, right? So the questions you have to ask yourself is, where do people in this position frequent? And I'll talk about what we know to be true of the positions that frequent each, but that's a good place to start. Where do you think that the people in this position frequent? And you can certainly search on each of the platforms to find that out. Which platform offers the best targeting for the position? We'll talk about that too, like what type of targeting that you have. Sometimes one is better than the other in that aspect. And does your company have a presence on the platform? So what I'd hate to have happen is you put all these ads out and then people click on your brand and then they find nothing on that page. Like it's not complete. You've never organically posted. It's going to look kind of scammy. And in this, in recent activity of like scammy recruiting, you need to have a presence there so that it's clear that you're a real company looking for a real position. All right, let's talk about Facebook first. So Facebook targeting options are pretty open. So who is on this platform? Everyone, really. I mean, most people have a Facebook account. The best targeting that Facebook has to offer, unfortunately, is by interest. So it's not, you can't target people based off of like what kind of job title they hold like you can in LinkedIn. It's by interests, and those interests are collected by based on pages that they have interacted with. So it's a little looser, but I will say that we've run quite a few ads actually recently in Facebook for specific positions, and we were able to target general interests and get applicants. And I believe 2 out of the 3 for one client in particular, those positions were filled doing that. So it can be done. It's just know that you're going to probably cast a really wide net to find the few fish, right?
I think I would just add to that too, that you can also target by location, which can help to kind of narrow this down. So in this particular case with this client, we targeted, I think, manufacturing and welding as an interest, but then we were super, super specific with the location, since it's an in-person job anyway. And I think that helps too to get a little bit more granular.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I would also add to this, because I don't know that I talk about it later, but think about people's intent when they go to Facebook too. They're not necessarily looking for a job like you are with LinkedIn. You're in your mindset of like, this is for my job. I'm being a professional on this platform. In Facebook, you're like, seeing what Aunt Ruth is up to or something. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
so make sure that your messaging is really clear in Facebook to grab their attention. Okay, so here's a candidate example for Facebook targeting. So just as Anne, you pointed out, we added a 20-mile radius on Milwaukee, and this is as the crow flies. So not 20 miles driving distance, but 20 miles radius of Milwaukee, city of Milwaukee. You cannot change the age or the gender, even though the options are here, because this particular type of ad, you have to specify that you are you're making it for employment. So those options are not obviously legally available to you. And then under the detailed targeting is where we would select like whatever the interest is that would make the most sense further. So if I want to find product managers, and I'm using Facebook, again, 20 miles radius of Milwaukee, I'm going to target the interests of product management, and then that's in the manufacturing category. So here's an estimated daily result that I get just from doing that. So I can reach anywhere from 166 to 480 people a day. And it's estimating that I'll get about 4 to 20 clicks per day. And obviously that's a very general estimate because nobody knows how many people are going to log in to their Facebook every day. So knowing how many, what the audience size is, and then they can estimate, obviously, a percentage of that will log on every day and see it and then be enticed enough to click, right? Okay, LinkedIn. So who is frequenting LinkedIn? This is more specific, right? So your office positions, your admins, IT, engineering, marketing, customer service, sales, those types of positions are most likely on here. Floor management positions, so your operations leads, your production supervisors are likely going to be on here. And then some of your skilled and certified or degreed workers, so certified welders, people that have an associate's in metal fabrication, certified industrial laser operators, like those types of things, like people want to tell people that they have, right? So LinkedIn makes sense to put that in. And then you can target by, you can target more than this, but this is, this is good enough. You can target by their current job title. You can target by a really general job function. So if you don't, like obviously people at different companies make up different titles for things. So, if you don't want to basically pinhole like your current job title, you can use a general job function. And then those categories are like engineering, marketing, customer service, things like that. And then by their education. So like I said, if they're certified or they have their associates in metal fabrication, like those are the types of things that you can pull out within the targeting. And then here's our candidate example. So if I'm looking for the position of welder and I'm using LinkedIn, I'm going to target that they live in greater Milwaukee area. So that's not just Milwaukee, it's greater Milwaukee radius, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to target the current job title of welder, and I may even look for journeyman welder. And then here's the results that I get for that. So they estimate that my audience size is 180,000. I added the spend of 200 for this particular time frame, so that's how it gets the total spend and impressions. The thing to note here too is on Facebook you're paying per click, and in LinkedIn you're paying per impression. So just know that your money is going to probably go further in Facebook because you're going to get more impressions for no money essentially, but you really want those clicks anyway. So. And then the total clicks are down here as your key result. And this is just running as an estimate of 31 days. And then if this is a position that you hold a lot of employees in your company, I'm thinking companies that have a lot of engineers specifically, you can exclude your own company so that your employees don't see this ad. It'll just help so that because you're paying for impression, you're serving to people that aren't already employed, because what would that point of that be? And then on LinkedIn, I want to talk a little bit about the ad options, because there are so many, especially for recruiting. You may have noticed that, actually, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to go back to Facebook. The only ad type in Facebook that you can be using is these posts, these sponsored posts. Obviously, you can use different dimensions so that you show up on mobile versus desktop. But that's really the only way to have your ads displayed. Here's LinkedIn, and this is called the sponsored content post. So that's obviously an option. It even gives you the option to add buttons to the bottom. So this one is an easy apply button. But some other options are here. So your dynamic jobs ads, that's where it shows any potential candidates, like, hey, picture yourself at this company. And you'll see that in like the upper right hand side of your desktop version, let's say. If you have 3 or more positions within your company that you have posted on LinkedIn that would match this particular candidate, it will give you a format where it will list every single one of them and say, hey, does one of these fit you? So again, that's just dynamic. You basically load it up with the positions that you have open, the candidate qualifications that you want, and then it works around whether they're on mobile or desktop, the best way to display that to your potential candidates. And then, like I said, there's the sponsored content ads, which I showed before with the button at the bottom. And you can use, that one was an image, but you can certainly do video if you have video content, even carousel images if you have that kind of content. And then the in-mail messages, which I'm sure most of us have probably seen, are basically you have your targeting and you create basically a LinkedIn message to go into their inbox. It will say sponsored on it, so it's not gonna, people know that it's an ad basically, but you want to make that a little more specific to why you're interested in this particular person. So if you pulled in specific qualifications, list those qualifications. Like, I see you're qualified in, or you have experience in blank. Like, we would really be interested in talking to you about this position. Some of those have a little more luck than just a general blanket, we have this position open, come apply with us.
I have
Yes.
a quick question before we move on to Instagram and TikTok. If you want to just go back to the last slide. So I feel like LinkedIn is seems like the obvious answer to recruitment and targeting, because it's just got so much more available to it in comparison to Facebook. So my question is, do you have like a use case or an example of maybe when it would make more sense to use something like Facebook versus LinkedIn, or vice versa?
We typically tend to lean more towards Facebook when it's more of like the machine operators, linemen, people like that, that they're not necessarily going to be on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is what's the word?
Management or like more senior level positions.
Your upper level positions. If you're looking for like your general machinists, even CNC operators, you're more likely going to find that audience within Facebook. So yes, you don't have as much targeting, but you have to think about where they're going to frequent. So it doesn't make sense to spend the money to put that type of position on LinkedIn, even if you can target, because you're going to hit a very small amount of your actual candidates.
Sure. Makes sense. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah.
Carry on.
Will do. Okay, and then I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Instagram and TikTok, right? So Instagram, actually, you can easily incorporate with Facebook ads because it's the same company, Facebook, Instagram. If you didn't know, spoiler. But when you load up your Facebook ads, you can either turn on, turn off Instagram ads as well. It's within the same platform, so really no extra, right? So that's easy to do. What I would do though is, if you can, make Instagram specific sized ads, and then check the hashtags. Hashtags are huge on Instagram. It's really even bigger than Facebook, really. It's how people see content that they might be interested in. So just check hashtags that might be relevant to what you're posting. So hashtag CNC jobs, hashtag jobs in manufacturing, hashtag hiring. Get as specific as you want. And then make sure that you're using the Instagram organically before exploring ads. Again, it's just good practice for that candidate to see the company actually using the platform that they're advertising on. And then TikTok. This one is interesting because obviously there's an uncertain future of the platform altogether. So I have a hard time investing anything in a platform that might go away. But just know that the demographics on that skew much younger. So make sure you match your messaging. If obviously, like here's the chart on TikTok, you're looking more at 34 and younger as that demographic. So maybe that's not your ultra skilled labor with 10 plus years experience, but think about internships and apprenticeships or job fairs, things like that. That would skew more towards that younger entry level positions, or not maybe entry level, but close to entry level positions.
Or just giving exposure to that next generation that maybe doesn't think of manufacturing as a very viable career path for them. Just opening their eyes up to it, I think those platforms could work really well. And one other thing I was going to add to TikTok is, like you said, it's an uncertain future of the platform itself, but I feel like the content type and the short form video, I mean, Instagram has adopted Reels and so has YouTube. So I don't think that's going to change.
No.
So it's still, I think, a good content format regardless of whether it's TikTok or something else.
For sure. And yeah, use that compelling personal video content, like a day in the life. There's a lot of examples out there. If you just Google it, like day in the life TikTok at Google or something, there's a couple of them out there actually, where just one employee goes around is like, here's my day in the life. And it's like a snippet of, here's where I get my coffee. Here's where I sit down at my desk. Like, here's what, those are the kind of things that grab people's attention though. And they're like, oh, that looks fun. Or like, that's kind of cool. We get to see that insight behind the scenes, snippet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And then if you're maybe not ready, you don't have the buy-in, you don't have the budget yet for those paid options, at least be thinking about where you're posting your job without advertising, right? So there's this Google Job Board integration that basically scrapes other sites and pulls in jobs. So if somebody's just Googling like manufacturing jobs, it will pull that into the search results itself. So, and this is exactly what it looks like right here. And it's pulling in from things like Facebook, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Monster, all those sites. So make sure that you're using those sites whenever you can. And then use job posting schema on your site. And if you're not familiar with schema, it's basically back-end language that tells Google that this is a job posting. And then like, here's the title, here's the location, it's full-time or it's not, like those kind of attributes. You basically label them so that Google can easily pull that in. So just make sure that you're doing that on your careers page where you're listing those jobs. And yeah, so talking about the messaging that you want to be using for all of these ads or even the organic postings for this is really right for that passive candidate. So 73% of potential candidates are passive job seekers, meaning they're not actively out there searching for their next role. But that doesn't mean they're not open to opportunities, right? So lead with the opportunity, not the position. And I think Uline does that really good here. In fact, they say endless opportunities in Stack, and they list these 3 bullet points. Over 50% of our non-entry level roles were fulfilled by a current Uline employee. And that's basically telling you there's room to grow here. Like there's a career path with Uline, you know? And they don't even have to say just that. They have the stat behind it. 1,900 new hires joined the team in 2022. So, you know, they're growing. They're expanding their employment. We added multiple new locations and continue to grow across North America to better serve our customers. And that probably speaks more to the last bullet point here is talk about the company and department growth. So did you have year-over-year revenue growth for the last 5 years? Potential employees will care about that. They don't want to invest themselves into a company that they don't feel is going anywhere. And then also talk about as far as like the department growth. You know, we've doubled the size of our marketing team because, you know, we're expanding to global marketing or, you know, all those kind of things that make it really exciting. Like this is new for us, but we want you to help us. And then list any benefits that set you apart. So not just the basic benefits like health, 401k, but also like, you know, set your own work schedule, on-site gym, you know, things of that nature that are still a benefit. Maybe you have a employee development program. That's important too.
I have a question here too, Andrea.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend or what advice would you give if you were struggling to kind of come up with the messaging here? Like who should, if you're a marketer at a manufacturing company, who could you talk to or how could you kind of gather some of these, some of this messaging?
Well, if you can, start with the HR and really talk to them about their employer branding guide, basically, what they have listed, but also maybe talk to brand new employees. What attracted you to this company? What do you find really exciting about this new opportunity? And then existing employees that have been here, like what, you know, what's keeping you here? What do you love about this company that you won't go anywhere else for? Really just, you know, boots to the ground, like just
Sure.
do the diligence and talk to people. Because yeah, you might have perspective, but you have one perspective. So they might list things that you're just not thinking of.
Absolutely.
And then that actually segues really good and well into employee testimonials. So yeah, talk to people, feature people in your advertising. People trust people, right? And they don't want just general statements like, we're a really good company. Well, tell me somebody who said that. So using quotes with images and videos, using, like I mentioned before, a day in the life, video content, or just somebody talking about day in the life. And then highlight meaningful, genuine experiences. So supportive atmosphere, updated equipment. Obviously, especially in the manufacturing side of things, you don't want to be working with people or with companies that have outdated equipment and you're, you know, constantly behind on. So updated equipment can be a big deal to those, especially who are in that situation where they don't have that. And then career development plans. I mentioned that in the last slide, but it is important that at least you can say, you know, we have these career development plans. We have goals around your career development. We can help you grow. They want that supportive growth opportunities within their role.
I think too, where you have highlight or bulleted the updated equipment, I think that's an opportunity too to turn that misperception you had mentioned at the beginning around of technology or automation replacing careers, when no, the more accurate reality of it is that it's adding to the experience and it's adding to work life. So I think that's an opportunity there to kind of challenge that perception.
For sure.
Also, there is a question that I know we'll do more at the end, but related to this specific slide from Eric. Is this an example of a ad that you have here, or is that an organic post?
This is an organic.
Okay.
Yeah, but it could easily be an ad. I might take it one step further and actually say like, so she's in supply chain. If I had a position that was open for supply chain, it'd be like, work with Christina, or Christine.
Sure.
And like, here's what she loves about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
taking
that's
a little
a great
bit of
idea.
different approach, but yeah, this is organic. All right, and then another potentially no cost to you optimization is your company pages on these particular sites. So again, these people want to see that your company is actually using these sites before you actually advertise on them, because they will click on your header, your logo. But make sure that you have complete profiles on any platform that you want to be using. Use these pages to really educate your potential applicants. So talk about your culture, talk about your values. You want your potential candidates to match your culture and values, right? So how can you do that if you don't talk about it? And then post about your company activities and celebrate existing employees. So just like that ad we just saw with Christine at Lockheed Tool, that's celebrating existing employees, but she's also talking about how great the company is. So just make sure that you're doing some of that within your organic posting. And then as a low-cost option to maybe get into the ad side, is you can boost your organic posts on Facebook, let's say, to test engagement with target audiences. So you're able to, whatever you, like if you have an organic post out there that you think, hey, this would also be a really good ad and I want potential applicants to see it, then you can add targeting to that, add a little bit of money to that, and then see how it does. So we can just test it, that kind of messaging. And then along with your company profile, you really want to touch on your website as well. So your website has to send the right message. Take a look at your careers page, look at the formatting of it, make sure you're using real photos of employees and workplaces wherever you can. Stock photos are great, but they're clearly stock photos. Like, you're not fooling anybody. So try to get employee photos where you can. Make a meet the team page or even section to really humanize your culture. And describe company mission and values. Again, same thing with the company pages on those platforms. You want candidates that are going to match your mission and your values. Make sure people know what they are up front. Share company-wide events and activities. Again, just like you would on those company pages, but do it within your site as well. And then also include information about giving back to the community through charitable work or volunteering. You wouldn't believe how many candidates that I've actually interviewed personally who would ask, like, are there opportunities for volunteering? Are there opportunities for charitable work? Or, like, what does your company do to give back? Those things are important, especially to the next gen employees. So make sure you have a section on that if you're doing those things. And a lot of companies are, so highlight it. It's a benefit.
What recommendations would you have for someone, because some of our clients have been in this situation where you don't necessarily have the budget or bandwidth to develop an entire like company culture section of your website? Are there any like workarounds that you recommend or any way to kind of combat that?
Make sure then you're using those company pages then on those platforms for sure to add that updated content. Also, if you still want to run ads, but you don't feel comfortable sending them to that outdated careers page, there's other platforms like Unbounce. What's the other one I was thinking of? I think it's just called Landing Page, basically. But there are other services that you can use that you can create your own landing page with forms and anything that you need that you can update, add your logo and have it look like a part of your site. And it's easy to use, in my experience, at least.
Yeah, you don't need like a developer or anything.
Nope, don't need a developer. It's basically like drag and drop pieces. So you can make your own landing page for that specific ad until you can convince your team that it's a really good idea to update your careers page.
Yeah, that could be your case study.
Yeah, maybe that's how you do it. You're like, hey, look at how good this fresh content did. So,
yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then just to recap. So, what platforms? Where will you find the candidates for the specific position? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. And then what ad type makes sense, right? I went through a few of them. You can make your own guesses. You can test them, A/B test them all you want. The approach. So again, write for that passive candidate, communicate company values and missions, and use employee testimonials. People want to hear from employees at the company. And then optimization. So update your social media company pages and website with activities, real photos, and community involvement. And then just a reminder again that we'll be sending out that employer branding worksheet to help anybody that doesn't have that already, to give them a jump start on their messaging.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's it.
Q&A? Cool.
Yes.
Thanks, Andrea. That was awesome. Awesome information. We do have some questions in the chat. One, Eric said he wants to share it with his HR team, so that's awesome. I highly recommend it. Lots of good info here. Emily had asked, would you recommend testing multiple platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn, at the same time, or one at a time?
If you want to test it against the same position, I guess you'd almost have to do it at the same time, because that open position is going to be open for only a certain amount of time. Hopefully, right? That's the goal. Yeah, but I don't think you have to do it at the same time if you just want to test out, where generally you feel like your money is well spent. Again, Facebook ads are going to be cost or spend per click, and LinkedIn is going to be per impression. So if you want your money to go a little bit further and there is a audience that makes sense on Facebook, you could always just do Facebook to start off with, and then eventually work over to LinkedIn.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question for the employee testimonial. What was the platform? What platform was that built for? How would it be added so that potential candidates know how to find it?
So I think the Milwaukee Tool one. I think
he's referring to
that one.
Milwaukee
That
Tool.
one was on LinkedIn, and it was an organic post. It could certainly be, like I said, reused for an ad, which I would change it just a little bit. Like, right. I would maybe have like the header say something about like the open position, and then hear from Christine. Like, she works in the supply chain group. So I would just change it a little bit on that. Yeah.
I think when you're putting money behind it, you want to make sure you are as clear and specific, I guess, as you can be, and not leaving it up to too much ambiguity.
And then when you add it to the ad, that's when you're adding all that targeting too. So that's how you get to your potential candidates.
Mm-hmm. And just for added clarification, so organically, really who sees that is going to be mostly your page followers. So as far as the question of how would it be added so that potential candidates know how to find it, I think that putting some ad spend behind it would be a good method to get fresh eyes on that ad.
Yeah.
Another question, is there a recommended audience size? so that I know my targeting isn't too broad or too small?
Yeah, I know LinkedIn, maybe in Facebook, like have like gauges within their audience size when you're adding different demographics
Yeah.
that say, oh, this is too small, oh, this is too big.
Hmm.
But generally, I think it comes down to, even if it's too small, if it's your target, you might want to just run it anyway. Honestly,
Yeah.
um, I think I think on LinkedIn when I was running some recruiting ads, it said something like 50,000 minimum audience size.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, but I'm only looking for people in the greater Milwaukee area and who are in this specific position. Is that 50,000? It might not be. So
Right.
you kind of make a judgment.
Yeah.
But just know that if it's a really, really big number, is there some other way that you can maybe narrow it down to really get to the people that you're looking for?
Yeah. And I think too, like LinkedIn, especially with its 50,000 recommended minimum, they're a little biased, I think, in that,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want more people to see those ads and click on them.
Yeah, because
So,
again, impression based.
hmm,
So they're like, they don't care how many impressions you get
right.
without clicks.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions from the audience members? I don't see any, but I'll give it a little bit. In the meantime, I have another question for you too. Um, what about like promoting events or like open or job fairs or open houses, things like that? Would you recommend kind of the same tools for promoting something like that as more of like that kind of like softer sell?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely if you're trying to get people to an event that's skewed a little bit younger, like maybe like for internships, apprenticeships, things like that, like think about those additional options like the Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
On LinkedIn, you can create events through LinkedIn that will show up on your company page and
Mm-hmm.
get served to people that are looking for those specific types of events. And that's free to create that event.
Right.
Then you can use that event in ads. It'll promote it to specific audiences if you want to put some money behind that. So those are a
Awesome.
couple options.
Cool. Another question came in. What is an example of the cost for these items? So maybe if you have kind of like, I know it's
Yeah.
very general or a ballpark maybe between like what you might spend on Facebook versus LinkedIn. Like I know LinkedIn is typically more expensive. Um,
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is going to be, I don't remember offhand like what their minimum spend is, but I think I would not recommend any less than like 500 for a month of advertising on
right.
LinkedIn just to get enough impressions at least. Um, and that's not to say that you can't do maybe a couple different ads on within that, but
Right.
definitely no less than 500
Hmm.
per month. On Facebook, it depends. It really depends on
Right.
your audience.
Yeah.
You can obviously input numbers to kind of play around with. Okay, here's what your audience is. Here's the reach that it'll get with that spend. I think for that example, I used $200, and that was for 30 days of run time. And it was like something like 400 people a day it was going to reach, and I'm okay with that. Like that, I would be comfortable with that. It all depends on what you have to spend and kind of your own judgment of like, does that make sense for how many people
Right.
I'm going to be have eyes on this ad.
Right. That makes sense. All right. Well, it's 10:45, so I guess that means we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing
Mhm.
all of that knowledge with us. Super interesting information. Yes, we will be recording this, or we have recorded this, and we will be sending out the full recording if you want to come back and revisit any of this. And we'll also be, posting it on all the places. So if you want to share it with others, you're welcome to do that too. I think that's all I have. That's all we have. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your
Thanks.
day. Bye.